Coming up in a minute, our reporter Stephan Bachenheimer investigates illegal immigration and drug smuggling along the US-Mexican border.
Please stay with us.
It is one of the longest border installations in the world, the 2,000-mile-long fence between the US and Mexico. Mexico's president, Felipe Calderón, has even compared it to the Berlin Wall, despite its improvised appearance and lack of razor wire.
Someone's going to come up with an idea to get over it. We understand that. The point of these fences is really to be like a deterrent to people that physically can't make it over, and then also for people that, even though they know they can make it over, it slows them down enough where our camera systems will pick them up, and then us agents will be able to get in there, react to the situation, and make an arrest.
Mike Scioli is an agent with the US Border Patrol. He shows me around the border fence which cuts through the Arizona desert and which is supposed to block the flow of illegal immigrants and drugs to the US. Mike shows me what the Border Patrol is up against.
The more comfortable the straps are, it really depends on...
This is the Border Patrol storage room for confiscated drugs. I pick up a 50-pound package of marijuana ready to strap on some carrier's back. Almost 1 million pounds of marijuana were confiscated by the Border Patrol in the last 9 months. An excursion into the drainage tunnels underneath the border city of Nogales shows the limitations of the fence above the ground.
But this is not the only tunnel that's being used. There are other tunnels around.
Yep. See, a lot of times what smugglers do, and here's the ideal thing for smugglers, is what they'll do is, you see this tunnel is already established. It's been here for years. They'll burrow into this. So they'll burrow in from the dirt, they'll break through this wall, and then they use this to go further into the interior. So
how to solve such problems has resulted in a heated debate in the US. Many question the fence that was initiated by the Bush administration, but so far its construction is to be continued. And those are only the issues on one side of the border. This is one side of the story. On the Mexican side, the border fence is perceived as plain injustice. After all, it is nothing but a barrier between the rich and the poor. And although the border personnel here tend to be laid back and have no shooting orders, when you look at the fence graffiti and the crosses memorizing those who've died crossing the border, it does bear a strange similarity to the Berlin Wall, except that those who died did so of exhaustion and dehydration in the desert. The relief organization Humane Borders takes me to Grupo Beta, a Mexican police unit that protects migrants from criminals and helps those who were caught and repatriated by the US Border Patrol to get food, shelter and a phone call to their families.
Have you heard of the Berlin Wall, and does this wall remind you of that?
Yes, this is also one America. This is not only Mexico, we are part of America as well. The migrants who fail in their attempt to cross the border also receive a comic book pointing out the dangers of venturing out again into the desert in order to get into the US. But few are deterred by the graphic images of imminent death. Instead, the coyotes, as the operatives who guide the way into the US are called, try to talk those who are desperate into a new attempt to cross the border. Others hide in the immediate vicinity of the Nogales border station, waiting to climb the fence by night. It is estimated that only a quarter of those climbing the fence are being caught by the US Border Patrol, and still 185,000 illegal border crossers were arrested within the last 9 months. This Mexican broke his foot jumping over the fence. Like so many others, he wants to try again.
Well, they want to go across because it's difficult right now over here, so they'll do whatever it takes to get across it. If they get caught, they're going to go back again and again until they make it.
So no wall can stop?
No, I don't think so.
I join these men later this evening on their trip to a shelter in Nogales. Dozens of repatriated border crossers are waiting here to stay overnight free of charge. Many of them had been living in the US and were deported because they didn't have the proper papers or they'd been involved in crime. They want to return to their wives and children. Others were just looking for jobs. All undergo a routine police search for weapons or drugs. Nobody wants trouble here. How long did you walk through the desert? 3 days. 3 days and 3 nights. Endless marches through the desert, that's probably the most obvious effect that the fence has achieved. The journeys become longer because the fence is easier to cross in remote territory, border patrols are less frequent, and the fence is often nothing but a vehicle barrier. Often, the coyotes lie to their customers, claiming that US cities are only hours away. Many are fooled and consequently aren't prepared for the unexpectedly long marches in the scorching heat. A map on the wall shows where border crossers have died in the desert. 1,138 dead are listed, but today there are hundreds more. At the improvised chapel of the shelter, religious offerings have been placed by border crossers, hoping for the protection of their patron saints.
This is a religious card that again is fairly common with the border crossers. Here is a, looks like maybe a string necklace with a couple of
personal items found on a corpse in the desert on the US side. Dr. Bruce Parks is the chief medical examiner in Tucson in the US state of Arizona. He identifies most of those found dead in the desert. The examiner's office had to request an additional cold storage facility to be built because so many border crossers have been found dead in the Arizona desert in recent years. Each square framed in blue represents a dead border crosser.
How much water do you need to drink in the desert to survive? Some people are walking for 3 days. We talked to somebody who was walking 3 days. How much water would he need?
You know, I can't tell you the exact amount of water. Certainly if you're traveling in the heat of the day, walking in the sun, you're going to need probably a gallon every hour or two, really to stay hydrated.
That is why 8 organizations like No More Death put out water on known migrant trails, trying to save lives. However, this time the volunteers from No More Death are observed and filmed by government agents. Some consider their life-saving pro-migrant activities to be wrong. But the group defends its mission to provide water in the desert and resists the government's intimidation tactics. Some are asked for their ID and handed a citation to appear in court.
Excuse us,
Can we just ask what they're going to be charged with?
Littering.
Littering? Doesn't seem that petty, given that they're trying to...
You'll have to talk to the Fish and Wildlife guys.
Then the water is confiscated as evidence.
Here to save lives.
Please do not take the water. Young children cross
Somebody
the
may
desert,
die
pregnant
because you
women.
take water off this
You've had already
land.
one death this week here.
Right here. How many more?
And maybe that is what all walls have in common. Wherever you find them, you'll find empathy having a tough time.
No more deaths.